Headphones, get your headphones. This video is best with headphones. Valicious was adamant that the cemetery belonged to him, and that Pinky was currently infringing on his space.
Don't worry, newbie. I'm here to help you.
He couldn't believe how dense this little creature was. Everything he said went in one ear and came out the other different. Her argument was very similar to his. Everything she did was of her own volition. There wouldn't be a single Naga who would be mad at him for accepting her help.
Just stop. How many times do I have to tell you that I don't need or want your help? First and foremost, this cemetery is my private retreat. Private being the key word here.
Giving her no chance to retort, he went on the offensive. How dare she abandon her current duties? Was she really so wild as to ignore the rules of the labyrinth? But with every word, he only dug himself deeper into a pink pit. Each sentence seemed to bind him tighter to her. Unbeknownst to him, his fate was slowly being sealed with each ill-chosen sentence that left his lips.
Hopefully you understand. I'm far too busy for this nonsense. It would be best for the both of us if you would just leave.
That's exactly my point. This is far too much work for one Naga alone. But don't worry, Pinky got this. The Naga attendant is extremely understanding.
What?
Hold on, my junior. I'll be back in no time. I'm going to get permission to be by your side.
Valicious couldn't believe this. Everything was going so well. All the effort he put in to get this place in order, only to now have to contend with a crazy pink Naga. The cemetery was a masterpiece of sinister design, tailored perfectly to his needs. At the far end, 3 chambers stood, each emanating varying levels of miasma. His residence lay just a short stroll away, conveniently close to the corpse sorting workstation. He had meticulously cleaned the cemetery's initial chambers, designating different areas for the remains of the fallen. The only other notable structure was the storage building, unremarkable to the untrained eye. But hidden beneath the surface, Valicious had been hard at work, crafting a secret underground chimera laboratory. This pink Naga was complicating everything. He couldn't take a single day off from his training, for doing so would only allow the miasma to build up. To keep it all in check, he had to meditate once a day in each of the 3 chambers. Otherwise, instead of training his body, the substance would simply grow out of control. He had no doubt that the Naga attendant would do exactly as Crazy Pink speculated. So what choices did he have in front of him? He doubted it would be wise to split the cemetery in half and give Crazy Pink her own area. Nothing about her screamed hard worker. And that's when he realized that it wouldn't work anyway. For there was a high chance that she was sent here, with one goal in mind: to keep an eye on him and his every move. It was foolish for him to believe that he had managed to stay under the Naga King's radar.
Should I just kill her? I could simply toss her into one of the miasma chambers. She'll be dead in no time. No, that route is bound to bring the walls down on me. I can't just dispose of their spy, even if she's a cute, annoying pink one. This is what I'll do. First, I'll seal off each of the miasma chambers. Then I'll dig a secret path for each of them to my underground chimera workroom.
Valicious had no time to waste. If this was going to happen, he would have to do it that day. That very next day at 8 a.m.
Newbie, I'm back. Catch this. I've been ordered to help you out in the cemetery starting today. Exempt from all other tasks, I'm to work here exclusively. I'm going to be by your side, till death do us part. We'll even live in the same house. No, please don't stare at me like that. It's much too early in the morning.
Yes, I've heard the so great news. First, let's make sure we're on the same page. How about you recite the conditions set by the attendant?
Well, order is different in the cemetery than it is in the rest of the Naga labyrinth. The role of senior isn't clearly defined here. And then there's the mandatory undisturbed private time after meals.
Yes, that 1 hour, private, time is the most important condition. Never confuse it with some swimming pool lore. We must never invade the other's private retreat. We don't converse or interact. at all during that time.
This condition made Pinky flush so hard. She understood that they were both in their prime. She didn't mind giving him a little space to let off a little steam. This spy was unlike any Velicious had ever come across. He knew a natural-born snitch when he saw one.
Oh, those eyes. I don't know if I can take this.
He only knew of one way to solve this problem. He would work her to the bone. He had no doubts when he was done. She would run from this place and never look back.
This is going to be fun. I hope you came prepared.
If he was lucky, she might even drop dead. Pinky couldn't get over this junior. She never met a Naga that stared at a hard day's work with a smile on their face.
Yes, sir. I'll do my best.
The mountain of corpses boggled her mind, and the smile on Velicious's face widened.
This is merely the byproduct of today's breakfast. Our mission is to reclaim all the useful bits and dispose of the rest. And to keep from falling behind, it all has to be done by lunchtime.
Pinky was astonished, her eyes growing as big around as saucers.
It's not too late. You can still quit while you're ahead.
Giant crocodile tears began to flow down her face. Velicious just couldn't believe how easy this was. Pinky thought she understood the extent of his suffering, but it turned out she had no idea. She was determined she would ease his pain. She would do her best. A light like no other sparked in her belly.
Let's do this.
The look in her eyes made him sweat, but he was sure this newfound energy reserve would fizzle out quickly. 1 hour later. 2 hours later. 3 hours later. Pinky chuckled to herself. For a moment there she was worried they wouldn't make it before lunchtime. But in the end they did it. She was now sure there was nothing that the two of them couldn't accomplish together. The words from his mouth didn't reflect what Velicious held in his heart.
You did a great job, Pinky.
He had assumed she would have given out hours ago, but to his horror it seemed they sent an elite spy like no other. Not only was she a master of deception, she was also a hard worker.
Gloomy, I've brought your lunch. I don't understand why, but they've doubled your portions today. Pinky? Why Pinky here?
The portions aren't doubled, regrettably. They just sent enough for 2 Nagas.
Ah.
Dummy, you're so sweet. Thank you for delivering our meal.
Pinky, work here?
I don't just work here now. I live here.
This news overwhelmed the first-gen freak. While Pinky understood, she explained she had no choice but to follow her heart. Drummy didn't fold to the pressure, while his heart ached. He knew he would always do what was best for his love.
Pinky, you know me. I'm 100% behind whatever makes you happy. And you, if you ever make her cry, I'll be the one tossing a body into the ground. Our time together has now passed, but the joy you gave me will last a lifetime. My love, please be happy, and know that I'll hold you in my heart forever.
Dummy. Oh, dummy.
Velicious didn't know what the hell he was witnessing, but he was now 100% sure these Nagas had lost their minds. He instantly withdrew from the tantalizing thought. Discrediting them was the easy path, but it only led him down the path of relaxing his guard. And to think he almost failed for such a ploy. I won't be caught lacking. Never. His heart raced as he realized he had to be better. He would study them all. And in the end, he would come out on top. He had no weaknesses, and from this day forward, he would double down on being the one doing the watching. Private time after lunch. Pinky lounged in the bar, her casual ease captivating her seniors. She had adapted so swiftly to the shifting currents, her talent undeniable. It always seemed as if what Pinky wanted, Pinky got. Meanwhile, in his chamber of swirling miasma, Velicious seethed, his mind consumed with venomous thoughts. His hatred burned for a certain little pink Naga. Yet, try as he might to summon her presence, she eluded him completely. The chamber remained still, his dark powers faltering in the empty silence. 3 days later, on the outskirts of the Naga Labyrinth territory.
There's something I think about every time our paths cross. the Naga Labyrinth is unique. But perhaps it's more that you are the unique one. For one, you always walk your path alone.
Maybe that's because I'm not as imposing as some others.
I don't quite follow.
Take the Flood Dragon King. His size alone made him a spectacle wherever he went. And Malicious, undead, never straying far from his companions. Safety in numbers.
That's not really what I meant by unique. But I'm certain your kind of uniqueness is a good thing. We're nearly there.
As they strolled into the clearing, the ninth floor's merchant's attention was instantly drawn to a particular someone in a distance. The setup was a bit over the top. A welcome sign? Seriously, who even does that? Black merchant, I think you should start talking.
My apologies. I may have neglected to mention something. She's...
Undefeated Baron. There's a formal procedure before we can head to the 10th floor.
Procedure? No one said anything about a procedure.
You just need to sign here.
Looks like we've been blessed with another fangirl. Kim didn't hesitate. He would do whatever it took to obtain the power he sought. As the 10th floor's black merchant danced around with her new prized possession, Kim and the 9th floor's merchant discussed the fact that he wasn't expecting a demon to be doing a job that was obviously only fit for an imp. The merchant understood where he was coming from, for only a few years ago the job was indeed an imp-exclusive task. But when the imps kept dying like flies in the abyss, things had to change.
You say that like the death of an imp even matters. After all, there's plenty of you little vermin scurrying around. What had to change was the loss of the black merchant's goods. It's simply something that couldn't be tolerated. And now, because of those despicable imps, I have to grind day in and day out. But the difficulty of my job isn't something the Baron should concern himself over. I must warn you, I haven't slept well for over 3 days. The excitement of meeting the undefeated Baron had me amped from the moment the news landed on my desk, so to say. If that's more the kind of thing you would worry about, it would please me. But I understand, and you're not obligated to feel that way.
Are you really sure this is okay?
Oh well, thank you. I had no idea you actually cared.
Wait, no, that's not what I meant.
Look, it'll be fine. She's a little quirky, sure, but she's on a whole different level from those demons we sent to the wastelands. She's just being dramatic. She can go at least 3 months before anything actually slows her down.
Well, with the introductions over, it's time we head on our way.
Kim softly pushed the encroaching demon out of his personal space. You've done right by me, so this is fully deserved. Here's the labyrinth seed that I promised. The black merchant's eyes lit up as tears began to swell. He couldn't believe it. He now had a good chance of seeing another day's dawn, so to speak.
Well, now that that's over, I believe it's time that you got back to work, Imp.
Safe travels. I hope you find what you're looking for, Kim. Pardon my French, I meant Baron.
Oh, what I would give to get my hands on the black merchant's teleportation ability. Unlike my portals, it doesn't leave an entrance behind when used. That alone makes it highly convenient. The versatility is astounding. This demon tore a piece of paper very similar to that golden ticket. But the auction demon didn't seem to need such a tool. I really hope it has at least some restrictions.
You don't have to worry so hard. It's not like we can teleport above ground or into a labyrinth with this. And I can't read minds. You're not the first labyrinth owner to have such thoughts. Well, as you know, time is always of the essence. So let's not hold our mercenaries up any longer.
While Kim was indeed ready to move on, he wondered if it was really necessary for her to be holding on to him so tightly.
Yes, it is. You don't want us to separate during the teleportation, do you?
She's not reading my mind. She's not reading my mind. Okay, so we're in a hurry, right?
Yes.
I mean, why are we just standing here?
I'm enjoying a little me and you time.
Somewhere on the 10th floor of the geyser.
Welcome, we're here.
This feeling, that smell, and the unseeable ceiling. In all my years, I never imagined I would ever return to the abyss. The black merchant showed her mercenaries no mind for their concern over the schedule. Why should she worry? She was the one that hired them.
Undefeated Baron, these are the mercenaries in charge of protecting the black merchant group on the 10th floor. They're known as the Failures. Well, the ugly balloon is just a porter. Don't pay it any mind.
The captain was well versed on the situation, and as long as Kim played the trainee, all would be well. Kim was having a hard time assessing who he was dealing with. Their disguise blocked out any means of figuring out their species, with human senses alone. Good to meet you. Well, at the very least he did have the ability to figure out their strength level. The parasite is assessing the target. This wasn't what he expected. They're all basic soldiers. He would be really pushing his assessment by assuming they had the strength of a third-floor being. Not wanting to cause a scene, he led the black merchant away. They really couldn't be serious. This group was no more than a bunch of random Andes. If he was a conspiracist, he would think the black merchant group was attempting to dispose of him. She assured him that the Failures were top-notch. At this point, they were more like the merchant's own personal army. Their record of success stretched back as far as 5 years. While they did have other mercenary groups, the mission's success would drastically drop to as low as 7% if they chose those options. Kim heard her words but was left with a conundrum. Should he trust them, or head back on his own? And that was the moment when things took a drastic turn.
A pack of massive worms are barreling toward us from about 200 steps out. Yeah, they've definitely caught our scent. Lucky for us, they're coming now instead of waiting until we're knee-deep in trouble with no means to fight back. You, though, should get some rest. After all, you're just playing the part of a trainee. Maybe it's best to think of you as cargo for now. Failures, prepare for battle. We've no idea what else may crawl our way, so let's make this quick and clean.
This wasn't good. Kim knew exactly what type of creatures they were dealing with. These beasts could reach up to 3 meters wide, and over 10 meters from head to tail. They're exclusive to the lower floors and even more common in the abyss. They're capable of moving freely underground. In such a situation, understanding that these things are extremely simple is to one's advantage. They spend most of their time lost in the sands. Without vibrations, they hardly ever find their way to the surface. But when they do, what a disaster it can be.
Breaking news. A catastrophic accident unfolded earlier today on the 6th floor, where a team of 100 explorers met a grim fate at the jaws of a colossal earthworm. Known to burrow deep within the geyser, this deadly creature's appearance so far afield has left experts stunned and scrambling for answers. In this moment of profound grief, our thoughts and prayers rest with the families of those lost to this senseless tragedy. This was Fred Kim with your news at 5.
These worms were way out of the mercenaries' league. He was sure that without reinforcements from him and the demon, this was going to be a slaughter.
You pay close attention. More times than not in life. All you know isn't all there is. In my opinion, your dependence on that parasite is a weakness. This works out perfectly. There's 5 worms and 5 of us. That comes out to 1 each.
But I'm a healer.
How about the last one to get their kill makes lunch for everyone else?
Yeah, nice try, but no one's going to take that bet. After all, it's your day to cook.
Enough talk, move out.
Okay, then I'll just try this. Oops.
Are you dense? Why do you keep doing that? Looks like I have to clean up your mess again.
Pay attention, damn it.
Hampio!
Kim was left with a look of complete stupidity on his face. It wasn't possible for basic soldiers to do so much damage in such a short period of time. 2 worms down in mere seconds. I'm pretty sure this is where the non-mind reader pops in with an explanation. The black merchant indeed began to shed light on the situation.
Well, to start this story, it's probably best to put their name, the failures, into perspective. I'm sure it has left you wondering, but it's a perfect fit for this group. After the Great War, each of them was freed, and each of them failed the journey to paradise. Yes, they're Geyserians of the Abyss, that long ago gave up a life on the surface.
The demon merchant didn't believe there was many left who remembered how the war between the surface and the geyser began. The conflict stretched on for so long that it eventually became known as the Great War. In the beginning, the human captives were seen as nothing more than an easy meal to their enemies. Food that marched itself down to them on a silver platter. But in time their value became greater, for they were the ones that bred the creatures known as the Geyserians. The difference between them and their forefathers were immense. Some were born with the blessing of the geyser, which on the surface manifested in the form of inhuman-like strength and stamina. An interesting phenomenon was quickly noticed by the higher beings. If the Geyserians were conceived deeper within their homelands, the more intense said blessing became. This led to the formation of organizations dedicated exclusively to breeding Geyserians as deep in the geyser as possible. This is why your kind is capable of existing in a place that eludes humankind even to this day. Sunken Sea Tentacle Mother.
So you know of her?
Sadly, I do. After all, it's where I'm from. To this day, there's a mystery that eludes me. Just how did the humans manage to win the Great War? Or at the very least, do you know whose bright idea it was to surrender?
A hero of humanity, or even a noble of a geyser. The who really doesn't matter. What's important here is the Geyserians. These creatures that the higher beings believed they could control turned out to be more blessed and favored than anyone had previously thought. The blessings they were born with was only just the beginning. Through hardship and strife, they grow stronger. I believe this is what the higher beings were afraid of. As future-thinking creatures, the long-term ramifications of their actions was always eventually bound to become clear to them. So they chose to end the long-standing war as an excuse, to rid themselves of the vile creatures they themselves created. So the war ended without the humans of the surface ever knowing the reason why. But you know that saying, the geyser always gets what it wants. There's never been a time when it has ever shone more bright. This time, the kings of the geyser wouldn't be getting their wishes, for there existed those who turned their backs on humanity and took their place within the geyser. And on the 10th floor, at least, they're known as the failures.
So, they're dungeon babies, who chose to abandon the path to return to the surface, choosing, instead, to find shelter within the geyser. What I don't understand is how they obtained such power. It makes no sense. There has to be more to this story. Why did you feel the need to tell me this? Are the black merchants not beings of the geyser? I know you see me as a Geyserian, but first and foremost, I'm a human.
Things aren't always as they seem. So, Baron, what do you see me as?
A demon.
Oh, humanity's old friend. I'll tell you a little-known secret. We're not technically creatures of the geyser.
Excuse me?
Well, it seems you've done our job for us. I guess we should properly introduce ourselves. My name is Lee Purium, and I'm the captain of the mercenary group known as the Failures. These two are Hygiene and Eugene.
You could be the captain's twin. Are you sure you're not some kind of skinwalker?
Hygiene, don't be rude.
There are supports. And these two are known as Jungwon and Suyang.
Can you imagine if they also had the same voices?
There are main damage dealers, but before that, there are scouts. Despite some of our behaviors, I hope you can now see that you're in good hands.
Hey, I was just trying to take a closer look. It's just so weird.
Is it true that you've given up on making it to the surface?
We have.
But why?
I'm sure you remember those days immediately after the end of the Great War, when the chains were broken and humankind was liberated.
Sorry, but I don't.
You can't be serious.
Did you hear that? His voice is lower.
Hygiene. Can you please drop it?
Captain's much more handsomer.
You're hopeless.
You have no recollections of that time at all? It was a catastrophic event that even to this day, I've found hard to forget. Well, I guess some are luckier than others. And it's not like memory loss isn't very common down here. So, let me burden you with my memories. The geyser held a celebration. The Festival of the Reaping. An unknown number of our kind were all freed at the same time. If I had to guess, I would say in the tens of thousands. And do you know what we are to the beings of the geyser? Nothing but a delicacy. Nothing about it was fair. They were gobbling us up right out of the gates of their labyrinths. We had absolutely no idea what was going on. After all, this was the only life we knew.
We can return home. All we have to do is make it there.
He had heard it countless times, the same burning question that lingered in his mind now as it did back then. What was it about the surface, this distant, untouchable place, that drove these people to risk everything, even after seeing so many fall to the same fate? To them, there were no guarantees that this place, this heavenly place, even existed. Visions and hopes fleeting were nothing more than the dreams of a distant sky.
Above me, the ceiling fades to blue. The sky sings of freedom, eternal, true. Clouds, delicate, like silk they glide. The sun burns bright, no place to hide. Stars are scattered, a jeweled display. The plains, they dance in the wind's ballet. Oceans, endless, a tempting lure. But for this dream, is my life secure? A part of me would like to say that we face failure on our journey to paradise. But the truth is, we failed before we even began. We gave up. To us, survival was all that mattered. If death was the price to pay for a dream based on a paradise, we would rather run away to the ends of the geyser where hope would never reach us. Better to replace the warm sun, the fresh air, the human laughter, with shadows, dust, and horrible screams. We chose to survive within the darkness. As if there was no paradise for us, we turned our backs on its existence. Choosing to return to the labyrinth owner who freed us, we begged him to take us back. And on that day, luck was on our side, for he falsely took our request for loyalty and allowed us to return to safety's embrace. As the reward for that loyalty, he put us to work as soldiers instead of captives. Well, at least until the day the labyrinth fell.
Wait, the labyrinth fell?
Yeah, but it wasn't of our doing. We only succeeded in escaping the tragedy of war.
It was so dangerous.
I was unconscious, but just the thought of how bad it was still scares me.
Now this is where you need to pay attention. I'll explain how we were consumed by the geyser's embrace. Her blessing, so to say. You have to understand this is the fruit of our entire life's work. So, relinquishing it at the request of the client has been a hot topic among us. Even with you being the first human we've run across since our release.
Are you still in denial? About the surface? I was born on the 12th floor, which is even deeper than here. At a very young age I managed to reach the surface. The very surface you guys are denying.
The surface. What kind of place is it?
Is it true that the air is warm?
Is there really water that falls from the sky?
No, I heard it was ice that fell from the sky.
Open sky and sun's fierce flame. Clouds that softly drift the same. Plains that dance with wind's wild touch. Endless oceans, waves that clutch. Stars that scatter in the night. Shining down with silver light. All the world in motion free. Nature's endless symphony. Destination, surface base. 50 meters to the east. Portal. You guys are no more failures than any of the others who escaped. You're just running a bit late. The failures sprinted down the hill fully wrapped in the ecstasy of it all. Everything was just as it was told it would be. The world was bright with endless blue ceilings. The air was clean and they had no problem seeing through it. And the taste, oh how nice it was. You should come, enjoy yourself.
That would be great, but I really can't leave the workplace.
I hope this doesn't throw us too far off the schedule.
No, everything was planned for, including excursions like this one. For the most part, our plans are always set in a way that allows for these things. After all, secrecy is of the utmost importance.
You know, I've heard rumors that our kind hasn't ceased returning to the geyser from the surface. So, a part of me has always believed this existed. But this isn't what I expected. I now understand those lost souls' attempts to get home. Thank you.
I was worried I had stuck my nose too far into your business. I was sure your team could have reached this place long ago considering your current level of skill.
You're right. We've been hesitant. But I don't think we would have ever gotten such a sure guarantee as this. Mana. It's the blessing of the geyser.
Mana?
The blessing of the geyser courses through every beast born of its depths.
Lepurium spoke of it, how all creatures of the geyser, including the Geyserians, carried this gift. The deeper one ventured, the denser the mana became, pulsing through the beasts who had long since learned to wield it with ease. But for the Geyserians, still new to this world, the energy was wilder, more unpredictable. Kim pondered the truth, speculating that the mana-rich depths had given birth to these beings. Yet, the failure's research told a different tale. His own understanding always began with the mother, in the sunken sea, where mana was incomplete at the moment of birth. It clung to them like mist, growing within them as they adapted to the world. But how much time did any of them really spend with the mother? Only a fleeting instant in the grand scheme of things. It was undeniable. The mana formed in their early years shaped the power that set them apart from one another. On the surface, it provided only a small edge, a mere boost to their physical reinforcement. But for the creatures of Geyser, it was second nature, as effortless as drawing breath. Lee knew that Kim's subordinates likely found it strange that their labyrinth leader struggled with what came so naturally to them. But he needn't worry, for Lepurium and his group were ready to teach him how to wield the geyser's blessing, to master the untamed force that had been waiting within him all along.
You will become stronger. And not just slightly. The change in you will be like night and day. A world of difference will separate your current and future selves.
We were having such a good time, why are they ruining it? Instead of fighting, we should gather the beast of this area.
Are you serious? Do you see any beasts in this paradise?
Wait, you're right, I haven't seen a single one.
Anyway, this is that Baron's private property.
What's private property?
Who knows? It's just what he said.
Must we truly go through with this?
You were the one who said I pale in comparison to your magnificence, were you not? I find it hard to take such lofty claims at face value. A few spells won't sway me. I'll need proof, and I'm afraid words alone won't suffice.
You're right, though. For some, the hard way is the only way forward. If we are to do this, you'll need to fight with everything you possess.
I'll be the one to decide that. After all, it would be a pity if I accidentally struck down the one who might one day become my mentor.
Do you feel that energy swirling around you? That is mana. An upper floor Geyserian would be without it. It belongs to those born or bound to the deep. And once from the abyss itself, that force would. Ha, so this is the power of the 12th floor. Truly, it's extraordinary. Sorry to break this to you. As it stands, all of that is a waste. In your current state, I doubt that you can beat me. As I said a few times now, simply possessing mana only reinforces your physique. And at best such an effect is minimal. You'll need to learn how to focus all of that wasteful mana. But if you do, you'll gain strength, endurance, and agility. You'll be able to think more clearly. So clearly it would be as if time slows down. Some go even further. Your mana can be forced into your weapon. By doing so, even a shabby iron pickaxe like this would be more than a match for an adamantium sword.
This is ridiculous. I have to attest that while I may have had trouble doing damage to the strongest of foes, Anaxtus, Delicious, but at the very least I was able to hit them. This guy, I can't even reach this guy. But that's not the worst of it. He's intentionally stayed in that very same spot, and has refused to use his second arm. It seems I've more than met my match. In all my time, I've never come across such a strong human. I guess I have no choice but to go all out.
During my training, I won't allow the use of a parasite.
How? What did you?
You can't be shocked. You didn't think you were the only one who possessed a parasite, did you? They're most definitely rare, very close to extinction even. But it's not unheard of to come across them now and again. Sorry to throw you off your game, but we're not here to evaluate the strength of your parasite.
Shit. He was right. I'm no match for him. I may be from the 12th floor, and my parasite may as well not exist if he can just wish it away. You're as strong as you say you are.
No, I'm not.
What?
You still don't get it, do you? Can't you feel it?
This can't be. In all my time as a labyrinth owner, no matter how close I came to death, no matter who the opponent was, I was always certain that if I kept moving, kept pushing, I would survive. This is insane. This feeling. It doesn't even compare to that time Anatolius scrolled across the 9th floor. This can't be. No, this isn't right. You're not strong, are you? It's more that I'm weak.
The battle to knowing yourself is so much more important than knowing your opponent. One is completely out of your control, but the other is the path to true freedom. Life in the geyser isn't like those fantasies we've been fed. You can't take everything on with determination alone. The eternal, unchanging truth of the geyser, no, I suspect the whole world, is survival of the fittest, the law of the jungle. What you saw today wasn't handed to us. We evolved through trial and error. If it wasn't for the time we've put in, we would be no different than any other loser you can find on the upper floor. But as it is, we're now fundamentally different. Our skin and bones are tougher. The flexibility, the density of our muscles are untouchable. Heck, if we had to survive on rocks, we could. All because of the geyser's blessing.
Mana, you say?
Exactly.
You guys are standing head and shoulders above the human race.
Perhaps.
Kim had no choice but to admit that Lee was the better man. It was hard, after all, his ego had swelled quite a bit, especially with all that undefeated commander nonsense. He wasted no time dropping to his knees. He needed the guidance of the failures and would do whatever it took to protect the things he held dear. No one is ever too old to learn something new. From this moment forward, he would call Lee Puria master.
Wow, chill with all that. I was going to teach you anyway. Keep all that sentiment to yourself.
The group was totally disappointed. They could spend a lifetime above ground. But work was work. And it wasn't so bad. After all, the Baron promised he would take them back to paradise one day.
Demon.
There is nothing to discuss. The contract you signed included the training of the Baron. But I took heed to your suggestion. The time period for this job has been extended by 1 week.
So, we have 3 weeks instead of the usual 2.
A week? You expect me to become like you in a week's time? How?
You're not learning a new fighting technique. We're going to change your constitution. And if you're as good as they say you are, that should only take an afternoon. We'll have you circulating mana in no time.
Circulating mana? The way Lee casually asked him to take off his top was a bit much. But he assured him that it was a necessary part of the process. And then he turned the subject to an unexpected topic. Down gems. Every creature in the geyser possessed them except for Geyserians. But they had a use that would be critical to Kim's advancement. He assumed that the topic of down gems had to be related to mana. He was correct. As it was explained to him, down gems acted in the same way as a human's heart. But instead of blood, it pumped mana, with the added benefit of also being a storage vessel.
The deeper you journey into the geyser's abyss, the more abundant the down gems appear, their glow a reflection of the mana-rich currents that swirl unseen. And as the beasts lurking in the shadows grow stronger, so too does the brilliance of the gems, each one a testament to the power they protect.
It didn't take him long to realize what Lee was subtly laying down. Each of them had a down gem within their bodies.
Mine is a bit below my heart. If you're wondering how big it is, it's the equivalent of a mid to high ranked gem.
Come on now, you guys cannot expect a fangirl not to fangirl. He could see the look on Kim's face and reminded him that they both had insects crawling around in their bodies. With such perspective, a stone was the least of their problems.
Eugene, you're up.
Wait, you're serious?
Excuse me. Let's see what we have here.
You're not going to make me swell up, like you did with that worm.
So rude. Why are manners so foreign these days?
Lee decided to lay out the extent of his healer's powers. She specializes in cell manipulation. Without direct contact, her powers are limited to the division of those cells. But things get good when she can lay hands on her target. Regenerating tissue damage, tracking the advancement of disease, and even manipulation of the body's accumulated mana are all things she's capable of.
If we have no objections, then I will begin. This can't be. It's like a horizon. No, a never-ending ocean. How is this possible? There's no way this is possible.
The mana inside you gathers like mist in the mountains, drifting on its own accord through the heart and winding slowly through your meridians. Left to its own devices, it will eventually bathe every part of your being. But such is the path of the untrained. We seek something higher, to bind the currents of mana with our will, to circulate it with discipline and clarity. That is the true art we pursue. Concentrate.
Noise canceling barrier. Silent bubble. That's my double bubble, baby.
Mana lies still, a silent and invisible force, so serene in its slumber that one could forget it even exists. Yet, with but a touch, it stirs, reshaping the world around it like a whispered storm. Eugen's mastery will temper its wrath, but this is no task for the gentle-hearted. A weight of sorrow lingers within me, for I have left him unaware of the agony that waits in the shadows. Kim was experiencing something extremely familiar. While it wasn't entirely pleasant, he wouldn't say it was beyond his capability to handle.
This is unbelievable. Eugene, what's going on?
Captain, we have a problem. His mana paths are mostly already open. And I'm almost positive he once had a down gem within his body.
Lee was left speechless. He doesn't have any skills, and understands little to nothing about mana. He assured Kim that he didn't believe this was a problem. At the very least, they couldn't call it that yet. But they were in a pickle.
Are you sure you don't possess skills?
I don't believe what I have counts as a skill. At least I wouldn't call it that. In the heat of the moment, I'm capable of detecting my opponent's weakness. With my parasite's ability, I can visually see their internal organs. At least for creatures who are weaker than me. Kim had no problems demonstrating his so-called skill. His eyes lit up as his mana whipped around his body.
Ouch! Hot, hot, hot.
The glow within Kim's eyes could be explained away as nothing more than an overflow of mana. Without the telltale markings, Lee doubted it was a skill. He needed to know what the commander understood when it came to skills. Kim had no problems laying down the facts he knew. Skills were special abilities that some Geyserians possess. Only some of them had them. About 10%, if mankind's data was to be believed. The most common is the detection-type skill. He assumed that the abilities were innate, seeing as how there had been no manifestation of them since their escape.
Wrong. The environment of the Geyserians depicts the skill. After all, they're the spells we use through mana.
Seriously?
The scouts and decoys, tasked with navigating unseen dangers, inherited the gift of detection, their instincts sharp as a blade's edge. The warriors hurled onto the front lines, bodies battered and broken, emerged from the crucible with powerful defenses, hard as iron. And those who sought to avoid the clash of steel, who studied the movements of their foes and pursued the distant dream of paradise, unlocked the rare art of foresight.
Usually it's triggered within you when you're on the cuff of death.
The blessing of Geyser, and the skills we Geyserians possess, are one and the same? If that was the case, then the use of mana would be known by all.
You would think so, right? Most skill users don't know the source of their powers. They rely mostly on the sensations they remember from the moment they were activated. And they definitely don't understand the art of cultivation. But regardless, they are using mana. Whether they know it or not. The good thing in these situations is if they were properly instructed, the creation of down gems and the circulation of mana would come to them easily.
If this was true, then what was Kim's weakness detection ability?
The markings in a Geyserian's eyes is the easiest way to determine if a skill has been activated. Also said skill wouldn't last throughout an entire battle. You best believe the user is entirely conscious of its presence. If I had to put money on it, I would say your weakness detection is simply you being talented. And by now, you should understand that the parasites have their own agenda, so gaining extra abilities from them is fairly common.
Kim was disappointed. He really hoped his weakness detection would help him on the path to understanding his mana. Lee assured him that the process of building his mana paths was elementary.
But since they're already open, all Eugene needs to do is jumpstart the circulation of your mana through your body.
That's what I was trying to tell you. He's beyond my reach. The most I've ever been able to do is akin to tossing a pebble into a pond. The subsequent ripples were all that was ever needed. But in this case, we're dealing with an ocean. And what exactly is a ripple to such forces?
Metaphors are all good and nice, but can you lay it down straight?
My skill level is too low to achieve anything. I doubt he would feel it even if I tried.
We now have a problem.
What's wrong?
I'll try to paint a picture for you. Our plan was to create a natural mana flow within your body, using Eugene's skills to carve out said paths. However, for some reason they're already opened. And in this circumstance, we would refer to you as a thick boy. Nothing she could try will allow us to get your mana moving in the right direction. We're at a point where we can't move forward until you remember what it feels like to have mana circulating in your body.
How can I? I've never even used it.
Of course you have. Your mana paths are open, which means you've already experienced its awakening. You might not remember it, but trust me, you have used mana before. You have to have some idea. Was there ever a moment when you were breath's distance from death?
Kim pondered the question. He could do this, he just needed to break it into bite-sized pieces. He knew it wasn't in his recent history. So, any time after he became a labyrinth owner is out of the picture. And his childhood was filled with nothing but digging.
Wait, you said you didn't recall the atmosphere in the geyser during the Festival of the Reaping. Is it possible that you had companions?
Well, of course. But I was the only one to reach the surface. I've never been entirely sure whether they made it or not. Somewhere along the way, I lost consciousness, and when I woke up the exit was within sight. Wait.
Somewhere between the sorrow of losing your companions and your ascent from the depths of the 12th floor to the very first, your dormant mana stirred to life.
Lee understood one thing. Without unlocking those buried memories, they would never take another step forward. The path ahead was as thin as a razor's edge. Returning to the 12th floor? Unthinkable. But how could they awaken what had been forgotten?
We'll need to rely on this guy.
The porter? What use is it beyond hauling our burdens?
Don't underestimate it. It's still a creature of the geyser, gifted not only in carrying messages but in defense as well. Its kind can replay traumas like all illusion beasts. With a little push from me, we could walk the path of the undefeated commander and perhaps uncover more than we bargained for. We will have it hypnotize you. If we look through all of your memories, I'm sure we'll come across the ones of awakening. Of course, in order for this to work, we will need your permission.
They all understood what this meant. None of them had many memories that didn't stem from trauma. I'm not in the position where I can reject strength because of a little discomfort. Bad memories. What harm could come from it?
Then it's decided. Let's begin. Whoa, now this isn't common or unheard of, but your psychological resistance is off the charts. It's so high I doubt there's many labyrinth owners that can crack you. I'm going to need you to relax your entire body. Drop yourself into a state of meditation. Open yourself up to my attack. Allow yourself to be hypnotized.
My bubble. My double bubble. You didn't have to do it so dirty.
Kim, be at ease. We will guard you with our lives.
It's time to unravel the thread of my past. He hadn't imagined they would trace the line back this far. What value could be found in returning to the origin? Mother's human farm. Sunken sea. Here, where everything began. Yet what could we learn from the helpless wail of a newborn? A child's cry carried no meaning but served only one purpose, to draw the guardians near. Their first truth was brutal. Silence meant survival. A crying child was a doomed child. But they were not punished. Punishment was meaningless. Pain simply bred louder cries. Bad children weren't punished. They were removed. Until only the silence remained. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to support the original creators. Supporting their work will allow us to continue to get amazing chapters in this series. And as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.